Hello and welcome back to Dream Chasers Interviews with the Future. I'm your host, Adam Carswell, joined today by my good friend from across the pond, Billy Keels. Billy is a real estate entrepreneur, also a sales savage, some might say. He really knows his way around business in general. And so, Billy, I'm really happy to have you here. I know it's been a long time coming. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing much better, man. Being able to hang out with you, hear you, see you, watch the evolution that you are on and that you're actively doing, it makes my heart happy. So I am just really, really looking forward to having a great conversation with you. And I guess it's not weird because a lot of people are gonna be listening, but I'm really, really happy to see the things that you're doing and the positive impact that you're making on so many lives, literally around the globe.
Thank you. Thank you. And same back to you. And you guys will see that here today as we unpack Billy's story. I think that I first learned about you. It was either you being a guest on Hunter's podcast like 3 or 4 years ago, or me finding our mutual friend MC Laubscher's show through Hunter
Yeah.
and then listening to you on MC's show. But I'm like, man, who is this guy from Ohio, like myself,
Yep.
that has been to 80 something countries,
Yep.
lives in
86.
Spain. He's doing this international business life play that I envisioned myself pursuing one day, because I was probably about 25 when I first came across Billy. Like, I got to get to know him. And so here we go. We got him here. I have, thanks to Michael Flight and a few other people in our network, gotten to know Billy personally and face to face. But yeah, I guess, Billy, could you take us back to the beginning of your story, which would have been like, how did you get the ideas of going and seeing all of these different places around the world at such a young age?
Yeah, man. So, and also too, if and I love that you've got a free flow format and we can chat about things. But one thing I would like to ask everybody, because I know you've got a very loyal listener and viewer base, and I know that you do this out of a lot of love, and that you spend a lot of time on it. And if you have not had a chance to leave Adam a very honest written review and rating, please take a second to do that, because I know it means a lot to him and also helps to attract and bring great guests for you. So,
Thank you, Billy.
just yeah, man, yeah. Just that as a background. So you already talked about it. So guy from Columbus, Ohio, originally. By the time I was 12, we had moved from Ohio to Colorado to Texas. Brother and sister were both born in Colorado, and in those kind of three states, and by the time I was 12, we'd probably moved like 8 to 10 times, something like that, or maybe 6 to 10 times. I can't remember exactly. But what that meant was my parents were constantly moving. Neither one of my parents went to college. Very blue collar family. Just the thing that they knew, and I always have learned, is work hard. You just got to work harder if you want to earn more. And the thing that they did not have access to was formal education. So they didn't go to college, didn't finish college. And so they always really instilled in us the fact of spending your time to get educated. We were in really good school districts. I was exposed to things that were really phenomenal because I had friends that had lots of things that my parents couldn't afford. So it kind of created this little envy. And at the same time, it was this drive to go out and get things. Eventually, the stresses from finances probably is one of the things that cost my parents their marriage. So I watched them struggle a lot. At the end of the month, they were trying to figure out, do we pay A or do we pay B bill? And eventually they divorced. And my dad went to the East Coast, and mom stuck around. And so we were at home with the single mom for a while. And I ended up going to college, one of the first to go and graduate. Graduated with 2 degrees from a college out in the southwest of Ohio, Miami University. It was fantastic. And along the way, Adam, one of the things that
You were a
happened.
straight A student too, I
Yeah,
believe.
so you've kind of got right. You picked up on one of the things I was getting ready to say. Like when I went through school and like I saw people having things, and I knew that education was really important. Like one of the big things for me was you needed to go out and make sure you could demonstrate, prove to others that you were valuable, right? And so that was a big part of going out, getting good grades, not only to others, but recognition for myself. So really, like A student, did really, really well, did what I was told as well, because that's what A students do. And many years later, now I recognize that I'm a recovering perfectionist. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. But someone who was an A student, and I was just used to getting things right, used to getting positive feedback. And going into my fourth year of college, I had this dream job. Like everybody wants to work at P&G. Like that was the big deal. You graduated with your degree and you started working at P&G. You moved down to Cincinnati and you did that. Well, I studied. I was ready for the process, the interview process, and I got rejected. That was not fun. Ended up getting a second degree. I spent the first semester overseas. Had something happen there that really changed the trajectory of my life. But anyway, I went back to Oxford, Ohio, and was getting ready to get my second degree in 5 years. And I was still focused on the dream job. Had the things that I learned, but I tried to get them right so the interview process would be better. I had more experience. I'd lived overseas. And the second time, I was absolutely positive I was getting ready to get my dream job, right? Well, I started the process, first round out, rejected not once but twice from my dream job, and that just really crushed me. Like, I didn't know how to, like, it happened. And but fortunately, I was in the student body. I was a co-chair of one of the student body governments, and I had a really good friend of mine from St. Louis, and he mentioned to me that there was this job where people were traveling and working around the world. And anyway, there was about 6,000, I think it was somewhere between 5 and 6,000 people that applied for the job. I was one of 26 people that was selected for this job. And the thing about this job, in 5 years, it gave me the opportunity to work and travel throughout some 58 countries. So the whole concept of the world was just like exploded.
And
Like, I
this
saw all
is,
this stuff.
you were doing this late 90s, early two, no cell phone type of,
No, yeah,
right,
exactly,
different world.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, it's a completely different world. No selfies, no taking phone shot, no, no, none of that. Like, I remember the thing, everybody was like, "Can I get a cell phone?" If we were in Rome, right? And that was the big deal. But one of those typical Motorola flip phones, and so very different. But the thing is that really changed my life. It opened up my perspective to being able to see things from a different view. And at the end of that 5 years in 58 countries, and was working with a lot of Fortune 500 C levels, and and after that, I just thought, wow, you know what? I can't do a normal 9 to 5. I couldn't even apply for that dream job again because I'd seen so much. And from there, I was accepted at a university in Paris, decided that I wanted to go. So I was accepted and I went there. I wanted to learn French language and culture. I wanted to learn more about wine, and I wanted to learn how to salsa dance. Those were the three objectives. And in a year, I was going to come
Nice.
back.
I
I
did
was
not
going to
know
know
this
more
about
about
this.
wine.
This is good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So those were the three objectives because I'm very like goal driven. So I needed something. It wasn't just going to be a year to do nothing, and it was fantastic. And the thing that happened, Adam, was about the fifth month, I'd gone through those nights where I was crying in my room because I couldn't communicate with people. I was trying to get utilities turned on in the very beginning, and that was frustrating. And people weren't really understanding me, and I would, more importantly, was not understanding them. I went through all that difficult times in the beginning, and at about the 5-6 month mark, I was like, wow, you know what? I'm actually understanding what's happening. I can go down the street and get a baguette and have a small talk with the person that's selling and things like that. And so then I contacted those people that I was working with before, those Fortune 500 CEOs, and they said, "Hey, if you ever want a job, give us a call." And so I was, I wanted to listen, and I took them up on that because that's what you do as an A student. If they ask you to do it, you do it. And fortunately, I was able to stay in France, and I started working in the IT space. I left Paris, moved down to a town called Montpellier, which was phenomenal. And while I was there, I started selling over the phone in French language, Spanish language, which was different, was very humbling in the beginning. I didn't even have the skill set to do it. So I had to do like data entry, which was really interesting because 2 years before I'd been leading teams of people in different places in the world, like teams of 300 people at 24 and 25 years old. And so after that, moved to Italy, started up a sales team there, finished that. It was 7 months, went back to France. I met a nice, really cool, cute Spanish woman right before I left, and she and I stayed in touch. And when I came back from Italy, she didn't want to move back to France. I ended up moving to Barcelona, and I moved to Barcelona in July of 2005. We got married in September of 2008. Our oldest son was born in October of 29. Our youngest son was born in May of 2011. And it's been fantastic, right? I always tell people, I make a joke, Adam, and I may have even said this to you in the past, but you have to be careful what you wish for when you take those 1 year sabbaticals, because they can end up being, it could end up being, well, 3 countries. It could end up being starting a new job. You can get married. You can learn 4 additional languages. You can have 2 children, and 21 years can pass. So that's been the thing that happened with the 1 year sabbatical. And also along the way, I continued to be that A student. I was the person who wanted to continue to rise up the corporate ladder, right? Just like I got good grades and I got that reinforcement. When I want to get the good job, you got the great education. After that, I got the great jobs. And the idea was to continue to move up the ladder. And so that's what I bought into. I bought into that dream. And I wanted to continue to move up the ladder. I wanted to be a great employee. I wanted to be a great father once I started being a father. And in the back of my mind, there were a couple things that had happened to me. In 2000, I learned the difference between savings and investing, because where I come from, we didn't have much. So the very little that you had, you kept it. And when you kept that, I thought that that was investing because you had money at the end of the month. Because remember, where I come from, my parents, like, they just scraped by just to get by at the end of the month. So anytime there was a surplus, you invested it. Little did I know later that that's really, you're just saving money for when things happen. And once I got from the saving to actually investing, going back to my professional career in 2000, the dot-com bubble happened. And so I lost money. I remember telling my financial advisor, like, hey, listen, what do I do? I was freaking out. And I remember him saying, hey, listen, no, don't worry. You just, there's some DCA, and you're going to do some DCA. And over the next couple of months, years, things will go much better. And I was like, DCA, what is DCA? It's like dollar cost averaging. It's kind of like when you just put the same amount of money every 2 weeks and eventually it comes back. And I said, oh, okay, cool. So I'll just keep doing that because I'm an A student, right? That's what the teacher said. And I'm just going to listen. And so, and the financial advisor was right, because about 2 years later, things were back where they were. And a couple of years later, things were even better than they were back in 2000. And then 2008 hit. And in 2008, I lost 33% of the value of my portfolio. Mm. And when that happened, it made me think to a lot of the things that my parents said. My parents told me growing up, don't let people take advantage of you, this and that. And, if something ever happens once, it's shame on the person that took advantage of you. If it happens twice, shame on you for not learning. And so this was the second time that my financial life was really out of my hands. And so I decided that I wanted to start learning more about the world and investing. And I found this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which happens to a lot of people. I picked it up. I started reading. I read the whole series of books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad series books, right? And the advisors. Started listening to podcasts, watching videos and things like that. But time passed. Like, I was really in the theoretical process of learning and feeling good and wanting control. And it wasn't actually until my oldest son's 3rd birthday. And this is one of the things that really, just even to this day, like, I tell the story. For a really long time, I was ashamed. I didn't really want to tell the story because I didn't feel like I was being a good dad, right? Because on my son's 3rd birthday, I remember getting up about 6 o'clock in the morning. Even before that, woke my wife up and the 1-year-old, and woke them up because I wanted to give our oldest a hug and kiss before I was leaving, because I had to leave that morning to go to a business meeting. So I woke them up. You imagine waking up in the morning, they're, laying in the bed, it's all crinkly and, face and hair's all over the place and stuff like that. But I woke them up, gave the oldest a hug and kiss. We sang happy birthday, and then I left. And when I left and I got in the elevator, it was kind of like my heart sank as I was going down the elevator. Because like inside of me, I was like, I want to be a really great dad, but I was going on this business trip. That day I spent in a business meeting, that night, I was at a dinner table while my wife and our 2 children were celebrating my oldest son's birthday, and with my in-laws, and I was missing out on that. And it was that kind of moment when I decided that this was the time that I had to take all that theoretical action and start putting it into practice so that I could start to have more control over my life. And came back and wrote down my goals and got really clear on starting to take action. And that's actually when I started getting involved in investing. And I spent about 9 years working and burning the candle at both ends. But now today, after 26 years in a corporate role, um, fortunate to realize that I don't ever have to go back to corporate life. I'm in my 40s, and yeah, so there's a lot more going on in life, and I'm spending a lot more time with my family and with my boys. We're playing a lot of video games, which is actually pretty interesting because I didn't play a lot of video games before, but they're beating me and they're enjoying it and all that kind of stuff. So I know it's maybe a little bit long-winded story, but I wanted to paint a little bit of the background and kind of some of the things I've done, and some of the tribulations I've also been through.
I think I'm grateful that you went into that level of detail, because there's a lot about your background and story that I didn't know until now. One thing that stands out to me is, as you mentioned, I didn't know about the piece of you going to Paris and university there. Mm. You endured long enough at being a bad French speaker in order to become good. And I recall, even when I first left the US and I moved to Belize, which is an English speaking country, but everyone there speaks Creole, the first 3 months, I'm like, I have no idea what these people are saying. Yeah. And thankfully I didn't throw in the towel. And I look at your story, it's like, clearly Billy didn't throw in the towel. There's so many individuals around this world that would have given up at that 3 to 5 month mark, and you stuck with it. And not only did you stick with it, but what I find even more rare is finding someone from the US or vice versa. I think maybe the US is a little bit more common where if somebody's from America, the chances of them leaving and really saying, hey, I'm going to stick my flag in the ground somewhere else in the world, that's super, super rare.
Mm,
So I just admire that a lot for you sticking with it, sticking your flag in the ground in Spain. Most people are not willing to do that. And clearly it has benefited your career in many ways. And I like your A+ student background because I think it actually speaks to a lot of corporate employees out there who, we're conditioned
yeah,
I like to call them the government indoctrination camps. We're
yeah, yeah,
conditioned that failure is the worst thing ever. You never, ever, 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 ever want to fail. And because of that, a lot of people will never take the action that they need to liberate themselves. And so thankfully, I think you said you're a recovering perfectionist. And I'm kind of
yeah,
in there too, right? Like I
yeah,
wasn't a straight A student, but I had my days of getting good grades. And I'm sure you can relate. Like
yeah,
it comes down to being able to just pull that trigger, take like, going in that elevator, as you mentioned, reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
yeah,
instead of just letting that moment continue, you took ownership and
mm,
changed the trajectory of your life and now the lives of your sons, your wife.
yeah,
And I think the big question I have here for our listeners would be,
mm.
if you resonate with Billy's story and you kind of feel like you're stuck, I guess, or let me put it this way, Billy, what would be your words of wisdom to that Billy Keels in that elevator to get him going even faster?
Yeah, part of it was, so when you're in a corporate role, and and look, I came from an IT. I was in the enterprise software, and so we're enterprise software sales executives. Like, we're not saving lives. At the same time, the role and the stress and the I want to say the exigence, the way that people are just very, it's a very demanding environment, right? Sometimes I get blocked in language. Sorry about that. I think I mentioned to you before, I
What
speak five
language do you
languages.
dream in? I've heard
Five.
that's
Well, it depends on the day. It depends on the day. Like, I've had days, it's right. It's between Spanish, Catalan, French, Italian, or American English.
yeah.
Um, but what happens is when you're in these kind of really demanding environments, you get caught up in the day to day, which is, hey, listen, I want the next promotion. So I want to do the next thing because that's the next logical step. And when you're an A student, everything that you've been taught up until that point is reinforced. You get you go in, you go through the job process, you get the job, boom. Or even before that, you study for the exam, you got an A on the exam, boom, that's validation. And so you continue to do that. And then when the next possible step is promotion, and in order to get the promotion, you have to be in these meetings, you have to meet this person, you have to do these many different projects, you have to do all of these extra things. Before you know it, you are so busy doing and building other people's dreams that you forget about your own. And so when you're in that perspective, and like, I was a happy, like, if people went back to my LinkedIn, like, my LinkedIn said happy corporate employee, because I enjoyed that. What
Right.
I wasn't realizing, Adam, was, even though I thought I was present, I wasn't as mentally present as I was. I was physically present, and I was as a dad who was around and things like that, but I wasn't mentally there because I was thinking, I've got to check my phone, I've got to action this. If it comes in, I've got to make sure that I get back to the boss in X amount of time, because that's another good point, another checkpoint for validation, and all of these kinds of things. And so when I realized that it wasn't about being so extremely busy doing other people's things, and being maybe even more focused on, how do I make sure that this is not uh, my only, and I don't want to say stream of income, but make sure that it's not the only thing that where you're validating your worth. Because a lot of times you can get caught up in, hey, listen, I've got this title, I'm making this much money, so therefore I'm on the right track. Well, many times, and what I've learned is that you don't have to have the title. You don't necessarily need to make more money. You need to keep more money. And when you can keep more money, you actually have more freedom to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, with whom you want to do it. Um, and those are the things that I would have recommended that I pay more attention to at a younger age, or to my younger self, is, hey, listen, this is cool, you're learning a lot of skills, you're building a great network, you're making a lot of money, you're paying a lot in taxes, and at the same time,
Key piece there
you
that I
yeah,
think gets missed is the higher salary, you pay higher taxes.
Oh my
deeper we
gosh,
get in.
look, like,
Yeah.
so here's the whole thing, right? And I was talking to, 'cause nowadays we talk to a lot, even more people, right? Because we're working and serving people who are high wage earners and things like that. And so going through and having a conversation, said, hey, listen, I'm working on getting this promotion. I just got the promotion before, and before I was working 60 hours a week, and now I'm working 85 hours a week. They bumped my salary up 15%, which actually put me into another tax bracket. But now I went from a 24% tax bracket to a 35% tax bracket. And so I'm working more hours, I'm making more money, but bringing home less. And so, and now I have a bigger team and all of these kinds of things. And it's kind of like, well, when does it stop? I don't know. When do you want it to stop? What are you doing so that you have the ability to say, if it stops tomorrow, do I continue to do it? Do you continue to do it? Or do you have another plan? Are you building other skill sets that are outside of what you're doing in your day job? Are you leaving yourself enough time to be able to really build your life with your family, for your future family? Because that's the stuff at the end of the day that really matters. Well, I guess it matters to me, right? It may
Right.
not
Right.
matter to everybody. I still have a lot of friends that the only thing they want to do is continue to move up because it means more salary, more power, more title, and that stuff is important to them. It became a lot less important to me the day that I missed my son's third birthday, because just for me, the things that are important are, it's being around family, it's being able to have health, and being able to do the things that you want to do with whom you want to do it when you want to do it. So,
Yeah, that was your last straw moment. Love it.
yeah.
I don't know how often you've told your story, but if you could keep replicating what you just shared with us here today for the future
Mm,
of your career as a thought leader, I'm like, man, this is so magnetic.
mm,
So, the other thing that you mentioned there twice was basically getting burned by the stock market twice, which is
mm,
another little bit of a rat race type of system that many find themselves sucked into and stay in it because they don't know any better. And I'd say my journey was similar to yours, which is I read Rich Dad Poor Dad a couple times, and I'm like, I don't know how, but I got to get into real estate.
yeah.
Um, yeah, for anyone who's tuned in right now that's never looked beyond investing in traditional assets like the stock market, which is funny. I know
Mm,
Michael Flight and I joke about this. Real estate is actually the original asset class.
yeah,
It's funny that it
yeah.
gets referred to as the alternative, but yeah, for our stock market listeners, not to
Mm,
say that there's anything wrong with it, but it seems from what I've learned in this sector of commercial real estate investing, there's so many people that have left and come here.
mm.
What are your words of guidance to those who haven't gotten into commercial real estate or alternative investments?
Yeah. So, well, one of the things I would say is, and think this is probably the most obvious thing, Adam, is whatever they're doing, continue to do more of it, right? You're investing your time, which is your most important asset here with Adam on every single episode. So continue to do more of that because you're going to be exposed to other types of assets. When you are exposed to those assets, the ones that resonate the most with you, you want to start to build the foundation, because if you do not have education, you cannot, in my opinion, have the metric that is the most positive that nobody talks about. If you don't have education, you cannot get that metric. It cannot be positive, right? A lot of people talk about your NPVs, or they talk, which is your net present value, or they talk about your internal rate of return, or your IRRs. They talk about your COCs and your cash on cash, but nobody talks about the ROS. And I've got a lot of passion about this, but your ROS cannot be positive unless you understand and you have an educational foundation, right? And I know, Adam, you and I have talked about this. You're exposed to what the ROS is, but
I
if you
forgot
don't
about it
have,
until I'm happy you're bringing it back to our listeners because I forgot about this concept.
yeah, and so if it is not, if you don't have education, then it can't be positive. So in the ROS, for those of you who really want to understand what it is, it's your return on sleep. If it is not positive, don't do it. And it's very difficult. And I mean, don't do it. Don't move forward in any type of investment. Doesn't matter what the investment is, because if you don't have the education, you don't understand it. The perception of risk is infinite because you don't know where you're starting from. Once you get the education, don't get stuck like I got stuck initially, which is the whole theoretical world. Get out, meet people. Zoom, you can use Zoom, you can use Teams, you can use Google Meet, whatever the case may be. If you can't travel, you can start to meet people. The world has opened up recently. It's one of the positive byproducts is that people understand you can meet people online. I still don't believe anything changes meeting face to face. I think that is the ultimate. And I believe when you are going to really truly build a relationship, which is a long-term relationship, that you must put your money where your mouth is. And that means actually getting out to meet people, whether it's at a conference, whether it's at a lunch, whatever the case may be. And then from there, continue to take action, because that's going to help you move from theory to actually being a practitioner, because it's only at that point that you're going to know if a particular asset is one that resonates with you. And the reason I say that is, for me initially, I guess I think about travel, right? And if I were, as I'm in Barcelona, Spain today, if I wanted to travel to, I don't know, if I wanted to travel to Ohio, there is not one specific vehicle that gets me to Ohio. I know that at some point I can get in a car and drive to the edge of where we get to the Atlantic. I could then go by boat. I've gone car, boat, and that can get me into the east coast of the United States or the east of Canada, and I can get in another car. I could choose to take a train from here to Madrid, and then from Madrid I can get in a car and go, or I could fly. Like, there are so many different options of vehicles that can get you to your destination. It's just like it's kind of like going to whatever destination you have for yourself. If you want to retire at 42 or 35 or 40, well, do you want to take the real estate as one of the assets? Do you want to take ATMs as another asset? Do you want to be in self-storage? Do you want to invest in energy equipment? All of these tools, or all of these vehicles, probably better stated, can help you get to the destination, but you've got to be in the vehicle that you feel the most comfortable with, the one that you understand the most. And in order to do that, you've got to get a baseline education and get around people that are practitioners. And ultimately, you have got to move from theory to actually taking money out of your pocket and getting involved in it, because that's when your attention is going to go towards the thing that says, do I really want to be in this educational content? Do I really want to be in this mastermind group? Do I really want to invest in energy equipment? Do I really want to invest in self-storage or ATMs or whatever the case may be? So hopefully that makes sense in terms of trying to help you move from theory to practice and using the vehicles that are most appropriate, the ones that you understand, to get you to the destination ultimately that you're looking for.
I love that. So I want to go ahead here and endorse, everyone who's listening, make sure, if you don't do it now, end of the interview, whenever this comes to mind for you, make sure you go ahead and check out the call to action that we have to check out Billy. Just because I know he is loaded with education and information to go deep in the world of investing. And on that note, getting that foundational piece of what direction you want to go, Billy, I'd like to know, what are you most focused on right now as an active, maybe even passive investor? So that way, maybe what you're focused on is something that some of our listeners have never considered. So I just want to match what you said with this question, which is let's lay down that first piece of education. If they want to go deeper with you, then they can do so.
Yeah, sure. One of the things that today that I'm specifically focused on, because, and you and I were talking about this before, and we've known each other for a while. I initially thought that I was someone who was a real estate person. What I realized is that real estate as a vehicle helped me get to a specific destination. I was then trying to get to another destination, and I used other vehicles, which was ATM machines. I invested passively there. I have, in an active portfolio, small multifamilies. I have a mobile home park. And then another destination was ATM machines. And I continued to have a problem because I was investing in these things, in these assets that were extremely tax efficient from a passive income. And I don't mean passive income that I wasn't working for it. I mean IRS definition of passive income and what that means. And at the same time, I was still paying 40+% in taxes because I was a high wage earner. Like, I'm someone who, by definition, when I was in my corporate career, if you earn over $200,000 as an individual and you've done that for the previous 2 years and you're expected to do it this year, or you have $1 million of net worth at an individual level, you are someone who is considered an accredited investor. And I know you talk about these concepts before, but what I was then trying to do is figure out, how can I not have to pay the 40 or 50% in tax and be able to use some of that capital to then redeploy into other more tax efficient types of vehicles, like real estate, like ATM machines. And so today, where we are focused is really helping that person that I mentioned before, that is an accredited investor, that is enjoying the destinations that they're going to, and they're investing in passive income types of things like real estate or mobile home parks or ATMs. And they're also looking to get to a new destination, which is helping them to really extract more of the W-2, the high taxes that they're paying, that they want to be able to mitigate some of that and also create very conservative returns moving forward. So we're focused on helping that individual, an accredited investor who is today getting crushed by taxes, paying 40% more in their earned income, and being able to provide them with the solution. And we do that through a number of different conversations, getting to understand the person more, where they're trying to go, what time frame they want to get there, and really being able to create a strong relationship with that person. And today, just to also help you, Adam, today some of our clients include people that are business owners. They have small businesses. We have people that are professional sports, like NFL. We have other people that are high wage earners, like I was in the software sales industry. A couple people who pretty soon will be doctors that are doctors, but will soon be clients and attorneys. So these are the types of people that we're helping, and we're helping them with this very specific challenge with W-2 income, paying high taxes on W-2 income, and seeing if we can help them. So hopefully that is specific
Yeah, that's
enough.
awesome. I heard a great piece of wisdom recently that has just stuck with me. It was within the past year, and it's like, look, Adam, at the end of the day, wealthy people, and they invest in the person, they invest in people, and they invest in business plans.
Yeah.
And I've just always kind of kept that in the back of my head since I thought about it. And I really don't, for the record, I'm trying to think, like, before I say this, have I really come out and said it on the show? And I don't think I have. So Billy Keels, and I love everyone who's been on the show before, and I always want to give an opportunity for whoever's been on here to talk about what they do and encourage people to go invest with them. Billy's the only one coming to mind for me right now that I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, like, if you're looking for someone that is going to be a good steward of your capital and you want to go deep, or as his podcast, you want to go along with Billy Keels, I just can't help but endorse him and encourage you to go check out his stuff and consider investing with Billy, because he's just put together something phenomenal here. So what is
if you could see like, you just gave me the chills, man. I just appreciate that. That means a lot to me, Adam, and I appreciate it. And well, we know one another, so it means a lot. It means the world to me that you would say that. Thank you.
My pleasure. And ladies and gentlemen, if you ever want to visit Barcelona, you know who to call.
That's what you really wanted to say.
So and I do have a couple maybe more like fun
sure.
questions for you here too.
Yeah, sure,
But
man.
before I forget, I do want to make sure, what is your preferred call to action for our listeners today?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the person that we described, if you're interested in starting to connect and may build that relationship, I would recommend that you go to firstgencp.com/invest. That's firstgencp.com/invest. Find out more about you, why you're wanting to connect and things like that. And the team and I will be in touch with you. You can also check out the website, which is firstgencp. I also like, and you know this, Adam, I love being able to connect with people through LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Billy Keels in Barcelona, Spain, so I should be pretty easy to find. But and then you mentioned before also too the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, and those are the ways. But ultimately, if you want to get to us and have that conversation, firstgencp.com/invest.
Love it. Thank you. Okay, and we'll circulate that again here before we close out. But I got to ask you some more travel questions now.
Yeah, man, what's up?
86 countries. Are there any new countries that are going to land on that list over the next couple of years?
So one of the short answer is yes, absolutely. I'm so excited because the boys are 10 and 12 now, and I really, after having spent the last 2 years really closed in, because here in Spain it was also like very hardcore lockdown, and my goal is to be able to get to the 100 countries. I haven't put a time frame on it, and I know I'm usually put a really hardcore time frame on it. I want to see how things play out in the next 6 months, but to be able to travel to the 100th country with my boys and my wife is something that I will definitely be doing, and much sooner rather than later.
So that's what 14, at least 14 countries. I don't know if you've surpassed 86. So do you have an idea?
No, I've been stuck on 86 for a while, man. That's the thing. I've been stuck. But now I have more.
Name a few of the potential 14.
Well, I've still not even imagine, like, I've not been to Croatia yet. I've still not been to Poland. So those are places that I would like to get. Don't feel like I know Latin America well enough either. Like, I've never been to Peru. I'd like to get there. I've not been to Bolivia, for instance. And so those are some of the places that come to the top of my mind. I really would like to get to the Philippines. there's a place that my wife and I've talked about a lot. There's El Nido, which is the nest, and apparently it's absolutely gorgeous.
Someone just
So
put that on my radar. Now that I think about it, the other day. Yeah,
yeah,
Nido.
so those are some of the places that I think about. We have a family member who's going to be moving to Kenya soon. I've been to the African continent a number of times. I've not been to Kenya before, so I know that we can get there. Maybe get to Tanzania. That would be pretty interesting. But just off the top of my head, those are the kind of the places that I would like to get to. And so just
Yeah.
want to see how things play out here and how free we can travel and things like that. I know the boys are up for it. We have to work on them eating some new things because they're kind of fixed on the stuff that they like to eat. So I also want to get them out of their comfort zone.
You're taking me to the next question with the food. And this is something that's become more profound to me now that I've been able to travel a little bit. Recently, my wife and I spent a month in Belize, which is awesome. Being able to, we've reached a point in our lives where, my dream of being this digital nomad, if we ever want to go somewhere for a month and, do my Monday through Friday, whatever, it's doable. Love
Yeah.
it. So that's another reason why I might be seeing you soon in Spain. But the coolest thing that I noticed was we're in Belize. I lived there for 2 years.
Yep.
First thing I wanted to get was rice and beans with stewed chicken. As soon as that hits your taste buds, all the memories come back, the smells. I can't tell you how many times I got like real tacos in the US. Sometimes we get confused on what tacos are based on
Yeah.
what we've been
Yeah.
taught growing up. But like the real tacos getting 3 for $1.
All right.
It was so good. And I'm wondering, for you living in all these different places, talk about maybe Spain, but then maybe 2 or 3 other countries where, when you go there and you eat that one thing, it just changes everything for you.
You may not like my response. Because I've been out of the States for 21 years living in Europe. And before that I was traveling all the time. So I think if you look at it overall, it's like 26 years or so. You made me think about my wife is from Spain, is from Barcelona, of course. And when we went back a couple of times to the States, I remember taking her to a restaurant that my family, my mom and dad, or my dad and stepmom, I think it was. Yeah, my dad and stepmom took us to this restaurant which had like Spanish food. And so they were really excited about the paella that they had, or paella, right? And so
Right.
it was definitely not like the paella that we have here in Spain. Like it was very, very different. But when I think about like the things that I enjoy, like I love Mediterranean. So like going to Italy, like to Naples, and having a very nice thin crust pizza, diavola, is like what we would say similar to pepperoni. Like it's just phenomenal, right? I just love that. If I think about like, so this is just one of my like guilty pleasures as well. Like I love being able to go back to the States and going to like Houston's and having a cheeseburger. Because
What is
that
it
is just
called?
kind of like
Houston's?
Houston's. Yeah, Houston's.
Where's
Houston's.
that?
It's on the East Coast, or it's on the like near the East Coast. It's on the East Coast. Houston's
Okay.
is a restaurant. So,
I was gonna say my,
um,
my weakness is Chipotle. I actually found
okay.
myself here because we don't have one in Newfoundland. Like 2 weeks ago, just sitting here, I'm like, oh man, I wish I had some Chipotle right now. So I hear you on that.
Yeah, which makes it, and then you ask for a third. Um, you know what? I don't know. I don't know if I can think of a third, but
Well,
those are the
you
two that
said
I
you spent some
that I
time
think
in
of.
Paris. I'm wondering, there's got to be something if you went there, you would get.
Yeah, you know what? If I go to Paris, I'm just trying to think. There's so many different things, man, that I would have there. I'm just thinking right now. I'm thinking more of a glass of red, a nice glass of red, full-bodied Bordeaux or something like that. That's really
Okay.
the thing that comes to my mind, or some type of. And I'm not a big cheese person, but maybe like one of the stinky cheeses kind of thing, because that's actually kind of when you're there, that's what brings you back to the moments. Like you said, you're eating when you're in Belize. But I think a cheese and some type of a red wine, a full body Bordeaux would be, yeah, that's the thing that
Nice.
comes to
Okay.
mind. Yeah,
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to ask for some wine tips from you when when the time
please.
comes. I recently, one thing that also sparked my memory in our last trip to Belize was I went to the store and got a bottle of cashew wine. That's really popular there. I'll never forget the first
Cashew wine.
cashew wine. The first cashew wine I ever bought was like at a speed bump because I've got the people standing there like selling it at the speed bumps. And that was 2013 or whatever. And I'm like, man, it's bringing it
Right
back right
on.
now. So
Cashew wine. Okay, cool.
yeah, cashew wine. Check it out. I'd
All
only
right.
heard of it when I was in Belize. I've never heard of it anywhere else, but it is a thing. It's kind of like
Right
apple
on.
cider tasting,
Okay.
a little sweet. But yeah,
All right. All right. Cool. I like that.
cool. So, all right, good time here, Billy. Definitely gonna keep in touch, and
Yeah.
probably when the time is right, bring you back on for
Would love
a
that.
repeat appearance.
Would
What
love that.
was the call to action again? Where can our listeners go to go along with Billy?
Yeah, sure. So the podcast is the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels. For those individuals that we talked about before, accredited investor, you're interested in knowing more, you're tired of getting crushed by your W 2, the taxes on your W 2 income. If you can go to firstgencp.com/invest, that's firstgencp.com/invest. And then for those of you who also like to maybe just have a quick connection chat through LinkedIn, I love being there. Like I said, I'm the only Billy Keels in Barcelona, Spain, I think. So it'd be great to connect with any of you there. And Adam, I just before you, and I know you're going to wrap things up, man, but I really do appreciate the opportunity today to share a bit more of my story. I appreciate what you're doing. I love the energy, the enthusiasm, and just the abundant mindset that you continue to practice. And it's something that I know will continue to serve you and everybody that comes into contact with you very, very well. And just can't thank you enough, man. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate the opportunity today.
Yeah, my pleasure, Billy. Thank you. And I got to ask you, what is the one parting piece of wisdom you can share with our listeners today?
Um, I guess in the back of my mind, I was thinking start before you're ready. But the reality is I lived through something in the fourth quarter of last year, with my dad having some heart challenges, and it was one of the main reasons for leaving, not having to worry about going back to the corporate world anymore, because life is very finite. And so the idea of being able to tell somebody that you love them when you have an opportunity, if they're on your mind, just send them a quick text or say hello, just to let that person know how much you're thinking about them. They could be thousands of miles or kilometers away. It's something that I work on not forgetting, and just take that simple action to let somebody know that they've made your day that much brighter, that you were thinking about them, and it will really help to spread more of the positivity. But if you remember that this is a finite kind of time, and make the most of it while you're here.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Billy. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
investing your time here today. I say that all the time. I got that from MC. He says that on his show. So
Mm.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners as well. Thank you guys for hanging out with us here today and investing your most valuable resource as well, your time. This is Dream Chasers Interviews with the Future. We were joined today by Billy Keels. Make sure you go ahead and check out all of the links and information in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in. And remember, in all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level.